2 years ago at the time of the writing, I made a video on Batman Hush, which I called a time capsule to the status quo of the era when Batman comics were coming out. In comparison, The Long Halloween, which was also written by Jeph Loeb back in 1997, but drawn by the late Tim Sale, is something I would rather call a turning point in Batman's war on crime, as it takes place around his early career and changed its original direction. The comic picks up close to where Frank Miller left Batman Year 1 at, where Batman had begun his partnership with not yet Commissioner Gordon, and was already working with the district attorney Harvey Dent. However, unlike with the status quo that Frank Miller left off in the aftermath of Batman Year 1, Jeph Loeb wrote The Long Halloween to start a little bit later, when Batman's existing rogues gallery, or just the most recognizable faces, had been established to be already running around Gotham. I'm going to remind you that they were not running around already before Batman started out, because before them, Batman was more focused on the real threat that was plaguing Gotham at the time, aka the organized crime families and the corrupt city officials in their pockets, including the police department. That is where Batman The Long Halloween picks up in Batman's career timeline, and during those 4 years when the DC Tomorrowverse was existing, it was also the only adaptation set during it before Crisis on Infinite Earths was made to rush it to a close. But besides that Tomorrowverse adaptation, The Long Halloween has also served as an inspiration for mainstream Batman movies, like The Dark Knight in 2008 and The Batman in 2022, while Batman Arkham City also had the Catwoman suit from the comic as an alternate skin in it. But since the Tomorrowverse movies are the more direct adaptation of the comic, it stands to reason that I focus on comparing these 2 or 3 together. Also, I kind of said that I would eventually do a review on this 2-parter movie back in 2021 when it came out, so better late than never, I suppose. Here are the time codes for how this video is going to be formatted in its final form, and now I'm going to start with the story commentary in recapping what happens in the comic. The story begins at the wedding of Johnny Whitty, the nephew of Carmine the Roman Falcone, where Bruce Wayne has been invited to as a courtesy by Falcone for having known his parents. Bruce, when brought to a private meeting with Falcone, is able to deduce that Falcone is also trying to talk him into siding with him, as Bruce is also a member of Gotham City Bank's board of directors. And without causing a scene that could send him thrown out of the party, Bruce tells Falcone that he can't be bought. Bruce runs into Falcone's son Alberto when trying to eavesdrop on what the Roman is talking to his bodyguard in his sleeve, and then to Selina Kyle, whom Bruce seems to have met before, who gives him a reason to stay a little longer by sharing a dance that Falcone's sister Carla takes a notice at. Meanwhile, Falcone is trying to tell his son to enjoy the party when he is told that the district attorney Harvey Dent is in his garage, writing down licenses of his cars, to which Falcone responds by sending his men to beat Dent up so much that he wakes up by the time Bruce and Selina are leaving and find him. Harvey thanks Bruce and Selina for helping him up and then excuses himself, as Bruce next, after having praised Harvey Dent as someone he believes in, has to excuse himself from Selina's company for the rest of the night. The next scene shows Captain James Gordon on the phone with his soon-to-be ex-wife Barbara Sr. about what a workaholic he is, when Harvey arrives to tell what happened when he tried to crashing Falcone's nephew's wedding. Gordon responds to that by saying, "Let's turn on the bat signal," as Batman is meanwhile shown infiltrating Falcone's penthouse and finding Catwoman trying to rob the place. Naturally, just their interaction causes Falcone's force to learn they are in his office and open fire, which causes them both to flee as Falcone decides to place a bounty on both of their heads for disrespecting the sanctity of his home and making one of his rivals like Sal Maroni laugh at him. Meanwhile, Catwoman is able to give Batman the slip just in time, so he can see the bat signal on the sky and go join Harvey and Gordon in talking about how to take down Gotham's organized crime families. Harvey starts by bringing up how many unsolved cases he has against Falcone because of his untouchability, to which Batman and Gordon respond that they are going to deal with Falcone the legal way, without abusing anyone's rights, aka by starting with Falcone's ledger that Batman was able to snatch from Falcone's safe when he caught Catwoman after opening it earlier.
3 days later.
Batman as Bruce Wayne is using his power as a member of the Gotham City Bank Board of Directors to vote against letting Falcone launder his dirty money there. But after he is outvoted by Richard Daniel and another member whom Falcone was able to buy into his pocket earlier, Bruce goes as Batman to threaten him to keep Falcone's money out of the bank and to resign so Bruce could become the chief of the board.
4 to 6 weeks later.
Falcone responds to this setback by calling his nephew Johnny back from his honeymoon
3 weeks later.
to come commit a drive-by on Richard Daniel, which Batman acknowledges happening without giving a vittuakaan. Meanwhile, Gordon and Harvey have much more humane reactions when hearing the news in the company of their spouses, but Richard Daniel's death is eventually brushed aside when
4 to 6 weeks later.
Johnny Vitti is found shot and killed in a bathtub, with a .22 caliber handgun with the serial numbers filed off used as a murder weapon, and a Halloween-themed calling card left behind. As Batman, Gordon and Harvey are working on the case to also figure out how it could affect their crusade against Falcone's crime family, Batman notices Catwoman spying on them across the roof from Gordon's office and confronts her. Since spying on them is not exactly a high priority crime, and Batman recognizes it having been a form of communication from her, he allows Catwoman to say what she has to say in exchange for not making any promises to help her in the future. The following Halloween night, Batman and Harvey have followed Catwoman's hint to find the warehouse storage, where Falcone has been forced to store his dirty money that he cannot launder at Gotham Bank. Unlike anyone else who would grab as much money as they can carry before leaving for where the mustard is grown, Batman and Harvey pour gasoline on the piles of money to set it all ablaze. Essentially, in order to do this to Falcone. Unfortunately, Falcone responds much faster than Scott Tenorman, and has already sent a team to bomb Harvey's house by the time he returns there to see his wife handing out candy to trick-or-treaters.
2 weeks and 16 paranoia-filled days later.
Following the attempt on Harvey's and his wife Gilda's life, Batman and Gordon are shown interrogating members of the Irish Mafia suspected of bombing their house. And to save time, I'm going to skim through this issue to its bare necessities so we can move on with it. Spoilers! Harvey and Gilda didn't die in the bombing, but Batman and Gordon have decided to use the attempt on their lives as a means to get to Falcone by trying to get the Irish to make a plea deal by snitching on Falcone. During the interrogations, which include how Batman had to chase one of them to the sewers, we get an establishment of how Solomon Grundy is a Gotham native, especially when he originally started out as an enemy of Alan Scott's Green Lantern, who also lives in Gotham. The suspects also mention that they suspect Harvey Dent for having shot Johnny Vitti in the bathtub on Halloween, while Falcone himself is happily making Thanksgiving dinner with his son Alberto. In the end, Batman, Gordon and Harvey have wasted their Thanksgiving, because charging the Irish for the attempted murder gets them bailed out in less than an hour and killed by the same shooter who killed Johnny Vitti on Halloween, who this time leaves a Thanksgiving-themed calling card behind along with a similar murder weapon.
4 to 6 weeks later.
On Christmas Eve, the Joker has, maybe for the first time actually, escaped from Arkham and maybe for variety's sake left this family alive after breaking into their home and stealing their Christmas presents. Probably because of that, Batman and Gordon are more focused on who has now been dubbed as the Holiday Killer and are in Arkham to consult the Calendar Man, who similarly commits his crimes coincidentally with the calendar. The best they get out of him is that the Holiday Killer could be a man or a woman, or both as multiple killers, along with that more bodies are going to hit the floor in the upcoming holidays, which Batman seems to deem as a waste of time. Meanwhile, the Joker decides to actually start killing people again while he is at large, starting by hitting Sal Maroni's restaurant because he assumes that Maroni is probably the Holiday Killer. The Joker must have overheard the conversation between Maroni and Toots, while waiting for his Joker venom to kick in, because their suspicions of Harvey Dent being the holiday killer sends the Joker to welcome him and his wife Gilda to their new home, while leaving Maroni to be caught by Batman when disposing of Toots's body. Harvey, being the good husband he is, senses the Joker's presence in their house before sending Gilda upstairs to be safe, and then confronts the Joker, who has a high enough pain tolerance to roll with Harvey's punches before overpowering him, and leaving Harvey off with a warning that Gotham is not big enough for two homicidal maniacs like himself. And just because the Joker is apparently able to do so, he breaks into Falcone's penthouse bedroom and tells Falcone to find the holiday killer, before the Joker kills everyone in Gotham trying to find him or her himself. Then when he is leaving and is confronted by the last survivor of Falcone's bodyguards, the Joker actually disarms him non-lethally with a card confetti before making his escape. And right before Batman arrives to the scene, Falcone's surviving bodyguard Milos is shot by the holiday killer, making Batman assume the Joker to be Holiday.
1 week later.
On the final day of the year, the Joker has appropriated a biplane carrying his Joker gas that he plans to release at the New Year's countdown at Gotham Square. Batman arrives to the airfield just as the Joker has taken flight, and is just barely able to grapple himself on board. While the two fight each other, Harvey is kept from leaving work by his assistant Vernon, who has managed to find a connection between Carmine Falcone and Bruce Wayne. Falcone himself is celebrating the New Year's on a yacht party, where he is keeping his friends close and enemies closer. And his son Alberto ends up being the next victim of the holiday killer, by being both shot and falling off the yacht. Meanwhile, Harvey arrives to his home to find Gordon and his wife Barbara Sr. visiting him and Gilda for the New Year's. Harvey excuses himself to the kitchen, where Gordon follows him to hear about the Bruce Wayne-Falcone connection, while Gilda talks with Barbara Sr. about how it's like to being married to men who are also married to their jobs. Also, Barbara Sr. mentions that Barbara Jr. is watching James Jr. while she and Gordon are at the Dents. And the fact that this family has parents and children share their first names sure must be the least of their problems, Frank! Oh, and Batman was able to stop the Joker from crop dusting his Joker gas on the people counting down to the New Year's at Gotham Square.
4 to 6 weeks later.
1.5 months later, when Loppiainen and Laskiainen have already come and gone, Harvey and Gordon have already arrived at Wayne Manor so they can discuss with Bruce about their discovered connection between him and Carmine Falcone. We can all guess why Bruce is not home, while out of context it can look suspicious to Harvey and Gordon, to whom Alfred tells to go get Valentine's Day presents for their wives. By the way, Bruce is confronting Falcone as Batman at his son Alberto's grave, about how many people have died before and after Holiday's killing spree because of his criminal family business. The confrontation then gets interrupted by Catwoman pulling Falcone's gun from pointing at Batman, and the chase between them that follows is used as a scene transitioning to when they are later as Bruce and Selina meeting up for what remains of the Valentine's Day. A shrouded flower peddler, aka Poison Ivy in disguise, offers to sell the couple a rose, of which thorns prick Bruce's hand for nefarious purposes, and while we wait for the effects to take hold of him, we see the holiday killer next claim a car full of soldatos outside of Salmarone's Italian restaurant, which also suffers some collateral damage. At the end of the day, both Gordon and Harvey have managed to save their marriages by the minimum of getting them Valentine's Day chocolate, but Bruce has fallen under the control of Poison Ivy.
Several days later.
Around the same time when Bruce has been turned into a passenger in his own body and so not responsible of his own actions, such as letting Carmine Falcone's money to be allowed into Gotham Bank, Falcone's daughter Sophia is released to early parole from prison. Meanwhile, Harvey and Gordon, having been unable to reach Bruce to talk about his family's connection to the Falcones, has grown their suspicions on it not being a coincidence. Ultimately, Bruce is rescued from Poison Ivy's control by Catwoman after Bruce ignored her as Selina, and saw Poison Ivy in his car, which was probably driven by also possessed Alfred. And while that was happening, Holiday attacked one of Marone's safe houses that Sophia was about to attack herself. Later that night, Batman thanks Catwoman at the Bat Signal for having rescued Bruce Wayne from Poison Ivy's control, which Falcone had apparently hired her to do to Bruce in order to get his money into the Gotham Bank. I repeat, Carmine Falcone hired Poison Ivy to have Bruce under her control for an entire month, doing who knows what she wanted to do with him in the meantime, just so that Bruce allowed Falcone's money to be put into the Gotham Bank.
2 weeks later.
Considering how the events of this issue are cut out from the animated adaptation, I might as well just summarize them being Batman and the Riddler separately trying to work through all of the evidence and alibis they have to sort out the most likely suspects on who the Holiday Killer could be. After having gone through the most unlikely suspects, which include Catwoman, Carla Vitti, and Salma Rooney, Batman concludes that Harvey Dent never had solid alibis for any of Holiday's skills, while the Riddler, who had been hired to do this investigation by Falcone, gets thrown out for not getting any proper results, and is then not killed by Holiday, because it happens to be April Fool's Day. And while all of that was happening, Harvey tells Gordon that they better go after Bruce Wayne for his family's connection to the Falcones.
4 to 6 weeks later.
While Batman is visiting the Calendar Man in Arkham for any new insights that he might have about the Holiday Killer based on the latest kills, along with having left the Riddler alive and if Harvey is somehow involved, Scarecrow escapes from his cell and manages to poison Batman with his fear gas when trying to apprehend him. Scarecrow manages to get away, and while Batman has to work on getting the fear gas out of his system, Gordon has arrived with uniformed officers to the Wayne Manor to clearly intending to, regretfully, take Bruce into custody pending on the investigations on his family's connection with the Falcones. As Alfred reminds Gordon about Bruce's whereabouts based on how it is Mother's Day, Sophia Falcone is shown interrogating a probable Triad member for who could be making custom 22 caliber pistols for the Holiday Killer. The gunsmith that Sophia is directed to then turns out to be the Holiday Killer's latest victim, likely as a means to cover the killer's tracks. Then when we see Gordon having tracked down Bruce down at Park Row where his parents died, being still infected by Scarecrow's fear gas makes Bruce see Gordon as Joe Chill and flee away from him, so making his situation as a suspect look worse by the time he is caught crying at his mother's gravestone.
1 week
Plus
1 week
plus
2 weeks
plus
16 paranoia-filled days
plus
1 week later.
To make a long story be told shorter, that connection between the Waynes and Falcone that has been haunting Harvey since Christmas turns out to be that decades ago, Vincent Falcone brought his badly wounded son Carmine to Dr. Thomas Wayne, because taking him to a hospital would have left him open for Luigi Maroni to finish the job on him. That's it. Thomas Wayne as a practicing surgeon was made to hold on to his Hippocratic oath by operating on the wounded mobster's son, which Falcone remembers to this day with gratitude, and Harvey obviously does not have a case to work with after Alfred tells this story in court from the perspective of having assisted Thomas Wayne during the surgery. For the remainder of this Father's Day, we see the Holiday Killer next strike against the old mobster Luigi Maroni, who had shot Falcone in the past, in front of his adult son Salvatore, but remaining unidentified. Catwoman spies on Sophia Falcone delivering the news of Bruce Wayne being acquitted by the grand jury for Dent's charges to her father, and presenting him with a Father's Day present. Gordon arrives home to receive his Father's Day present from his already asleep son, while Harvey was presented with a silver coin by his own father when visiting him after his bad day at court. Bruce on his end, while now freed from any suspicions of being allied with the Falcones, is now burdened by the knowledge that his own father had held Carmine Falcone's life in his own hands, and in saving it let the Falcone keep Gotham in the grip of his crime family, along with having one of his favorite memories in seeing his father's work now tainted by that fact. act. Before the day is over, we are also shown that Falcone orchestrated Scarecrow's escape on Mother's Day, and has him partnered up with the Mad Hatter to have them attack Gotham City Bank Depository, while Sal Maroni has arrived at Harvey's office late at night to make a deal against Falcone.
2 weeks later.
On the American Independence Day, we see the holiday killer this time kill a civilian, while Bruce Wayne is celebrating / on a date with Selina, but is forced to cut it short off panel when called to meet Harvey by the bat signal as Batman. After pouring his heart out on his failure in going after Bruce Wayne, Harvey gets to the point about Maroni having agreed to testify against Falcone, being how they can bring his empire down, but doesn't get to talk much about it when Gordon arrives to inform them about Holiday's latest victim. While rushing to that crime scene, we see Sophia visiting Maroni in his cell, revealing she had previously gone to prison for his sake, and suggesting that the people under Matt Reeves who worked on the Penguin series did not read this comic enough when casting their actors for that show. Next we see Barbara Sr. and Gilda presenting an example of how the Bechdel test doesn't work without turning the scene where it happens into needless filler that should just be cut out, aka talk about how their husbands working on taking down Falcone while also hunting down the Holiday Killer has affected their marriages. At the crime scene below the Gotham Bridge, Holiday's latest victim is identified as a coroner who was shot from a close range, suggesting that the victim knew his killer, or that the killer knew the victim enough to get close to him. As Batman and Gordon are trying to figure out how the coroner is connected to Falcone's crime family, they notice some extra fireworks being fired at the Gotham skyline, which Batman recognizes as a cause to ditch Gordon. And for a good reason, because those fireworks have been made so that they spread Scarecrow's fear gas, so that he and the Mad Hatter can break into Gotham Bank Depository to rob it. When Batman confronts them, he focuses more on beating up Scarecrow for the troubles he had to suffer during Mother's Day and Father's Day, so leaving himself open for the Mad Hatter to almost fire at him with a shotgun if Catwoman didn't jump down on him. Batman acknowledges that Catwoman has been following him all the way from the GCPD, and so ignores her attempts to flirt with him, with the exact same words that Selina Kyle told to him earlier as Bruce Wayne. So, Batman just lets Catwoman leave the crime scene while looking after Scarecrow and the Mad Hatter, knowing that Falcone must have hired them for this robbery just like he did with Poison Ivy.
4 to 6 weeks later.
On Carmine Falcone's birthday, Gilda Dent finds a similar gun as Holiday's chosen murder weapon in her basement, which Harvey explains away as a misplaced piece of evidence in that day's Maroni testimony. Meanwhile, Batman is looking for the Riddler during the daylight hours, to question why Falcone had hired him to investigate on the Holiday Killer, who then caught and left the Riddler alive after having been fired. This pattern of having hired costumed criminals also happens to be what Falcone's sister Carla is yelling at him at the same time, when Sal Maroni has been dressed and his body searched by Gordon, before being escorted to the courtroom to give his witness testimony against Falcone. As these two events are paralleling each other, Maroni, while being escorted to give his testimony, is intercepted by Harvey's assistant Vernon, who gives him stomach medicine for his ulcer before entering the courtroom. And Falcone himself is brought to his surprise birthday party, where while his family is singing "Happy Birthday to you," Maroni begins to cough during his testimony, luring Harvey closer so he can hear better what he is saying through the coughs. And at the same time when Falcone blows the candles on his birthday cake, Maroni throws the acid in his stomach medicine bottle at Harvey's face. The court enters disorder as doctors are called to tend to Harvey's wounds. Maroni is restrained, and a disguised Batman is left haunted by the sounds of Harvey's screams. Later that night at Gotham Hospital, where Gordon and Barbara Sr. are supporting Gilda while waiting for the doctors to let them know how Harvey is, the doctor, having worked on Harvey, stumbles out of the operating room with a scalpel on his back, announcing that Harvey has escaped. And meanwhile, the holiday killer strikes again, this time killing Carla Vitti, Falcone's sister, when she attempts to break into the coroner's office.
4 to 6 weeks later.
Harvey is now covering his scarred face with bandages and hiding in the sewers, where he comes across Solomon Grundy and is capable of pacifying him by knowing how the nursery rhyme goes. While he is bonding with Grundy in moving on to a new life, Batman and Gordon discover circumstantial evidence from Harvey's suitcase, a .22 caliber handgun and Falcone's ledger, which points towards Harvey possibly having been the holiday killer, which Batman refuses to accept, while Gordon as a cop cannot refuse the evidence, telling Batman to find Harvey. Batman starts by confronting Falcone on his balcony about Harvey's whereabouts, to which Falcone responds by denying any knowledge about where he could be, and instead tells Batman that he accuses Harvey of all the members of his family murdered by Holiday. So Falcone shares his own beliefs that Harvey Dent is Holiday, and blames Batman along with the police for having looked the other way while slaughtering his family during the year that Falcone's people have come to call as the Long Halloween. Batman pushes Falcone away when he gets too close to his personal space, and once again catches Catwoman, now spying on Falcone's penthouse. Catwoman's flirting does not work on Batman trying to question why she is spying on Falcone, or what her connection to Falcone is to make her spy on him, so Catwoman just tells Batman that it could be one of the 3 excuses she gives before jumping off the building, likely knowing that Batman is too busy to chase her. Batman next confronts Gilda Dent in her and Harvey's basement, telling her that he and Gordon found the gun Holiday used in Harvey's suitcase, which she tells Harvey had explained as misplaced evidence. When Batman points out that the basement's workbench has gunmetal fillings that could be from filing off serial numbers, Gilda responds with grieving wife's tears that make Batman leave for his next lead. In Arkham Asylum, Batman questions the Calendar Man about what he could possibly know about Harvey's whereabouts, but is instead given an idea how to catch the Holiday Killer with the bait they still have in custody. Not soon later, Gordon is shown escorting Sal Maroni from jail through the sewers, where he is then shot twice to the head by the Holiday Killer, who in the struggle against an armored guard is revealed to be Alberto Falcone, whom Batman disguised as that armored guard is more than capable of disarming, with noticeably excessive force brought by the anger of having ever suspected Harvey of being Holiday. Gordon is fortunately able to talk Batman down, and so Alberto Falcone is arrested and identified as the Holiday Killer.
Several days later.
As Carmine Falcone comes to see his son in custody, Batman and Gordon observe having managed to understand how Alberto had faked his death at New Year's, and then gone through his father's enemies while believed to be dead. Then he had killed the coroner on July 4th for knowing his grave had a fake body, and his aunt Carla in August when she went to look after the coroner's files in his office. As Batman suspects that Falcone must have known that his son was Holiday, Alberto starts passively to dismiss his father's attempts to help him in his situation, before asking him if he remembers that his birthday is on February 14th, aka Valentine's Day. Alberto explains his motive for having become the Holiday Killer being because his father never really wanted him to become involved with the family business, and having recognized that Gotham had moved on from organized crime families to costumed criminals, having so decided to join the new class come to replace the old.
Lot of boring math later.
On Halloween night, while Gordon and his wife Barbara Sr. are visiting Gilda handing out candy to trick-or-treaters and worrying over her husband, most of the inmates in Arkham Asylum have been let out of their cells, leaving only Calendar Man behind. At his penthouse, Falcone is taking his anger over Alberto defying him on his kitchen while Sofia observes, when suddenly their power is cut, and their security detail is taken out in a variety of methods as they try to leave. The corpses eventually lead them to Falcone's office, now being occupied by the Joker, Solomon Grundy, Mad Hatter, the Penguin, Poison Ivy, Scarecrow, Catwoman, and Harvey Dent, having now fully become Two-Face. Just as Alberto had foreseen, the new class of criminals have come to take over Gotham from the old, and naturally Batman arrives to take them all down, surgically, as he remembers having heard his father having told how to take care of problems. But while Batman is caught off guard by Catwoman's presence, Two-Face manages to get Falcone to a chokehold with a gun and flip his coin, which landing on the scarred side makes his decision to shoot Falcone dead easier. Sophia responds by trying to charge at Two-Face, but is stopped by Catwoman, and their struggle causes both of them to get thrown out the window. Batman didn't seem to pay any attention to any of that, as he is still trying to reach out to Harvey inside Two-Face, who manages to fool Batman into getting close enough to be sucker punched. With that done, Two-Face next goes to confront Harvey Dent's assistant Vernon Fields, knowing he had seen Sal Maroni before he entered the courtroom, and gave him the acid that was thrown at Harvey's face. Two-Face flips his coin once again, and later Batman finds Vernon dead, as the bat signal is shining on the sky. Batman and Gordon arrive at the GCPD to find Two-Face there, explaining through Harvey, with Falcone now being dead, his criminal empire is going to crumble away, because costumed criminals like him have now risen to take the organized crime's place. When Gordon calls out Harvey for having betrayed everything he once believed in, Two-Face offers himself to be arrested, knowing he can as a lawyer defend himself in court, and says that during this concluded long Halloween, there really were 2 holiday killers. After he has been taken away, Batman and Gordon try to understand what that is supposed to mean, since Alberto Falcone confessed to all of Holiday's murders, with Batman surmising that having killed Carmine Falcone as the last Holiday murder, Harvey Dent was also a Holiday killer, and even when the good guys won in the end, this was a Pyrrhic victory to them. As the story is concluding, Gordon is shown spending time with his family, knowing what he has to fight for, while Batman mentally needs to remind himself why he exists. And while Two-Face is now incarcerated in Arkham Asylum, Harvey Dent is still thinking back to his wife Gilda, who is shown packing out her stuff to move away from Gotham and talking to herself as if Harvey was still with her, while also burning away clothes and weapons similar to the Holiday killer as evidence suggesting that she was the other Holiday killer. Right then, since I will be comparing this 13 issues long comic mini to 2 90-minute movies, or to one 3-hour movie, let's get over the comic's individual aspects before spending the rest of the video comparing what in both was done better and what worse. Like I said in the opening, The Long Halloween served as a turning point to Batman's war on crime by moving out the old class of organized crime and moving in the new class of his more recognizable rogues gallery of costumed criminals, as well as being a Two-Face origin story in leading the charge of that change. That is pretty much what this comic is in a nutshell, and Tim Sale's art frames it with a film noir-like tone fit for a tragic fall of the Mafia movie. That is most likely what the animated movie also wanted to copy when it was being made, but the Tomorrowverse animation style and the cinematography barely makes up for it in recreating the atmosphere of Sale's art. Which does also have certain flaws to it here and there, like in this panel where Bruce is supposed to mourn his father on Father's Day, which makes him look like his hairline is receding. Otherwise, the flaws are a part of the personality in Sale's art style, like with how the Joker has teeth this big, and Poison Ivy having a hair like a... let's call this a leafy bush style, which must have been a choice. Story-wise, while The Long Halloween did what it set out to do in having the criminal classes change and being a definitive Two-Face origin story, it also left some loose ends hanging, such as the surviving Falcone's heirs, like Alberto still being in custody, Sofia actually surviving that fall, why Catwoman was spying on the Falcones in the first place, and the revelation of Gilda Dent having been another holiday killer along with Alberto. Well, those first two got covered up later when Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale teamed up again to give us Batman Dark Victory, which had those two dealt with while also working as a Dick Grayson Robin origin story. Then there is Catwoman When in Rome, which is set during the events of Batman Dark Victory and answered to her motivations with
"Because he's my father!"
by having Selina be looking for whom she believed to be her mother in Italy. Long story short is that she didn't get any concrete answers that confirmed or denied who her parents were, but told enough hypotheticals that didn't make the story a waste of time. And then in Gilda's case, Jeph Loeb is currently working on a Last Halloween miniseries tying up that loose end, and working with multiple artists in making it a tribute to Tim Sale's legacy in having drawn these stories. But as Gilda is revealed to have been the other holiday killer in the end, Tim Sale's art style also makes it hard to tell which kills were hers, even when the Calendar Man and the Riddler point out how the killer could have been a woman, and she had the willpower to get all of her kills done out of wanting to ease up Harvey's workload before helping Alberto fake his death to take over as the other holiday killer. We don't get her alibi for Johnny Whitty's death, while it is possible that she could have sneaked out of the hospital to take out the Irish Mafia and then follow the Joker from her home after Harvey got beaten up to kill Milos. Alternatively, it could be possible that Harvey's Two-Face personality born from stress and implied abuse from his father could have unnoticeably taken over and killed off the Irish Mafia, while Harvey himself believed to be standing by Gilda's hospital bed. That, however, would mean that Gilda knew about Harvey's Two-Face personality, which Last Halloween kind of leans on, and in general, Gilda as the other holiday killer worked a little too much behind the scenes to explain how she started it all in the first series, before managing to convince Alberto to take over. Well, now we know why the adaptation had to be spread into 2 90-minute movies, aka into 3 hours, so we could cover and acknowledge what those follow-ups added to the main story. Okay, and now let's start comparing these two, let's start comparing these 3. Okay, it's fun, let's play. Let's go climb a tree. Why is this movie so bloated?
You're gonna kill me.
This is sloppy. This is sloppy padding. This is bad. This is...
What are you doing?
Why include this? Why make this change? This is bad. This is bad. Right. Directed by Chris Palmer and written by Tim Sheridan, this adaptation completely does away with the wedding of Johnny Whitty and his nameless bride in the beginning, skips Richard Daniels' part in the opening with the Gotham Bank, and makes itself to start right at Halloween night in October instead of in June, where Batman, Gordon and Harvey meet on the roof of the GCPD. This time they meet there after Johnny Whitty has already been killed, unmarried and about to turn evidence on Falcone, while Batman catches Catwoman spying on them, which then leads to a very slow chase sequence that makes it feel like padding, which is Catwoman leading Batman to that warehouse where Falcone is holding his money in storage waiting to be laundered. The movie also has Catwoman present in the warehouse with Batman and Harvey, in actually giving them the idea to burn it all down, and Batman hands Harvey the two-headed coin to make the decision on if they are going to do it. Then when it comes to the events of Thanksgiving, despite Harvey having princess-carried Gilda towards their suddenly exploding house, she walks out of it as if she was never caught in the explosion, while Harvey gets bedridden in the hospital. He so won't be impersonating any of the Irish mafia who blew up his house, because they have been changed to Chinese triads in the animated movie, whom Batman fights against with Catwoman in a fight sequence that feels like it was made to pad out the movie's runtime and animation budget, because Batman is not made to fight Grundy in the sewers when he gets there. Meanwhile, Harvey's contribution to these events is to wander out of the hospital wearing the scrubs on him and be found by Gordon in front of Falcone's penthouse building, probably as a Two-Face foreshadowing or as a red herring. Meanwhile, we are shown that Falcone's and Alberto's father-son relationship has been redone to change Falcone from not wanting Alberto to be part of the family business to give him a chance to do something better, to instead having wanted Alberto to be his heir before a past incident made him look too weak to even sit at the table. Also, Alberto defied his father by having sent flowers to Harvey's hospital room under the Falcone name, which does not make the Roman happy. Around Christmas, the Joker escaping from Arkham is made an even bigger deal than in the comic, and he is not shown leaving a family alive after cringing on them, while Batman and Gordon only learn about the Joker's escape when visiting Calendar Man.
And just when you thought you'd cleaned it all up. What a joke.
Yeah, the difference is that they knew the Joker had already broken out. So they cut out the movie then flips out the order in which the Joker goes through his suspects for holiday by going to Harvey's new house first, when Gilda is supposedly doing some last-minute shopping, and then goes to Maroni before going to terrorize Falcone next. Milo's surviving to be Holiday's next victim then turns out to be because he was in the toilet when the Joker went through Falcone's other bodyguards. Batman then assuming the Joker to be Holiday is supported by his escape from Arkham having happened before Halloween and being covered up by a blackmailed guard. Alfred is then written to tell Bruce not to even bother looking for the Joker, because he should attend Falcone's yacht party instead. The fourth issue's events are noticeably bloated to make it a cliffhanger of part 1, by having the Gordons and the Dents attempt the New Year's countdown that the Joker attempts to crop dust with his Joker venom, while Bruce and Selina are both at Falcone's yacht party, and Vernon Fields has been cut out from the story altogether. After having gone back and forth stopping the Joker, Batman returns to the yacht in having concluded that Alberto could be Holiday by taking out others who would succeed his father, but then the movie decides to subvert expectations like the Hush movie and Gotham by Gaslight did, by having Alberto be killed off by the Holiday Killer like in the comic, and being shown nothing left of his body as it falls off the yacht. Also, Selina and Bruce have been in a relationship prior to the events of the movie, since their meeting and starting out as a couple at Johnny Whitty's wedding was cut. I guess that is how she would know to accidentally call Batman Bruce when he is confronting Alberto, but this change is ruined by an earlier scene, where she tried to gently break up with him for not being more present in their relationship, which she should know being because he is busy as Batman. Future Pika here. I just realized that Selina could have been talking about them being different people in living double lives. Except that with this movie being set in Batman's second year as a crime fighter, Catwoman should still be a cat burglar, whom Batman would be pursuing to catch and arrest like any other criminal. Flirting while they are wearing masks is acceptable when they do not know who the other person is, but if Bruce is letting Selina run around being a thief that he is willing to be in a relationship with, that would be an absolute taboo to the promise he made to his parents when becoming Batman. And if Catwoman is not a cat burglar who steals stuff for Selina Kyle to afford living this kind of lifestyle, then how exactly is she supposed to be operating in this continuity for the status quo to make sense? Past Pika has more complaints about this coming up next. I assume this is the result of DC and its writers, like Tim Sheridan in this case, trying to overcorrect the damage Tom King did to their relationship during his run between 2016 and 2019, but overdoing it like this makes it look too transparent and so ineffective in fixing anything. Especially when their relationship has been moving this far, this fast, and this early. This continues up to part 2, which is bridged by having the cliffhanger present Bruce being taken under Poison Ivy's control at Alberto's funeral, likely happening early to mid-January, and Selina taking 3 months to come to Bruce's rescue, rather than charging to his rescue as soon as she learned about the situation. Also, since Bruce is not a member of the Gotham Bank Board of Directors, Poison Ivy has instead been making him sell Wayne Enterprises to Falcone as a way of laundering his dirty money. And the holiday murders are speedrun through with Gordon and Harvey right behind her. It can only be Gilda at this point, but more about that when we get to it. Fast forward to the American Mother's Day, since April Fools with the Riddler is cut out, Scarecrow randomly escapes from Arkham while Batman just randomly happens to be waiting to stop him, without being visiting Calendar Man as it happens. That moment was given to the Joker back during Christmas, but Batman still gets poisoned with Scarecrow's fear poison, and I am of different minds about this following change. On one hand, it is understandable that Tim Sheridan and the others wanted to brush off the wild goose chase that Harvey had in prosecuting Bruce, while wanting to keep the scene where young Bruce saw his father operating on Falcone. Unfortunately, the substituting done to the adaptation causes Batman to go have a padded episode of reliving his parents' deaths, right in Park Row, where he ends up scaring a family not that much different from his own, and then unmasks himself there on the street level after they have conveniently decided to ignore him. And then Catwoman appears to help Batman back to the Wayne Manor to recover because she knows he is Bruce Wayne in this version, and it comes across as more damage control from Tom King's run in hurrying up their relationship along. Next up, the trial, or hearing, where Alfred explained the connection between the Waynes and Falcones, is changed to Gordon and Harvey visiting Bruce when he is home and talking it out as they would have in the Valentine's Day issue, if Bruce wasn't out as Batman confronting Falcone for some reason. What I do not like is how Bruce tells Gordon and Harvey about how he saw his father operating on Falcone as a child, because it was better in the comic as one of Bruce's favorite memories that was then tainted with the new context, whereas portraying the scene as Bruce always having known takes away from all the emotion it had on him learning about it from Alfred. So why not just have Alfred tell everything about that night from his perspective and have Bruce also learn about it with Gordon and Harvey, so recontextualizing how he remembers that night? Bruce already knowing how this scene went makes it feel hollow compared to the comic version, and it only worked as a nod to the audience in the Batman movie by not being a major plot point like here.
His father saved my life. I got shot in the chest, right here. I couldn't go to no hospital, so we showed up on his doorstep. Operated right on the dining room table. Kid here, he saw the whole thing.
Moving on to the reminder of Father's Day, that is where Sophia is introduced into the story in this version, unable to give Falcone her Father's Day present, mentioning that she orchestrated Scarecrow's escape from Arkham, and to be in a relationship with Sal Maroni. That last bit is followed by Luigi Maroni being killed by the Holiday Killer, who is clearly not animated to look like Gilda Dent wearing clothes to hide her identity or the fact that she is a woman. That naturally leads to Maroni approaching Harvey for the plea deal to testify against Falcone, after we first get through the majorly rewritten events of July 4th. Since Alberto is dead and so has no reason to kill a coroner who knows too much, the victim is instead a hired gun that Falcone had hired to kill either Harvey or Gilda for a reason to be spoken of later. Which Catwoman is busy in helping Harvey survive since she saw Falcone hiring the gunman, who then dies off-screen ambiguously on if he was killed by Gilda as Holiday or by Harvey, whose Two-Face personality has begun to surface already by now. Also, while Catwoman was busy protecting Harvey and Gilda, Batman was overpowered by both Scarecrow and the Mad Hatter robbing the Gotham Bank Depository, but that is just a temporary setback. So, when moving on to Falcone's birthday, Batman is not disguised among the crowd hearing Sal Marone's testimony, but rather going through the dense basement where he finds that gun that Gilda found in the comic. And he went there probably because Carla Vitti is shown at the same time abusing her freedom of speech to smear Harvey's name on TV, and Batman wanted to do the whole trust but verify thing with his friend. When it comes to Sal Marone's hearing itself, it has been bloated likely for dramatization's sake to also make Harvey look like he is having an unprofessional mental breakdown that he was clearly better to hold back in the comic, and the event itself is no longer framed to take place at the same time as Falcone's birthday party, which happens later. Then when it comes to Harvey getting the acid thrown at his face, well, without Vernon Fields, Marone just happens to have the acid on his person, as if he wasn't body searched before being brought to the courtroom. Otherwise, while the scene is overdone with the attempts to dramatize it and bloat the runtime of the movie, it at the very least manages to do the one thing that it's supposed to do in creating Two-Face by getting the acid thrown at Harvey's face. I am not a purist about many things, but one of the few things that I am is that Harvey Dent's origin as Two-Face should happen when he is doing what he knows to be the right thing to do and gets punished for it, so justifying his transformation to become Two-Face to balance the scales on how the system he served and believed in had failed him. Not because he had been dragged to some random location that then blew up and or could have been avoided if Batman had done something differently, so giving Two-Face an extra reason to be Batman's enemy. Batman the Animated Series did not fail to understand this, but it along with the Dark Knight movie set up a predicament where the shows like Beware the Batman, Gotham and the Penguin have taken the building blocks of Two-Face's backstory to do so that Harvey Dent either becomes Two-Face just for the sake of it, or Sal Marone, who is supposed to create him, is killed off before completing his purpose in life. It really says something when this Long Halloween adaptation and Batman Forever are the only faithful adaptations of Two-Face's origin. Okay, rant over. In moving on, we see Gilda looking like she doesn't care at all about Harvey's hospitalization unlike in the comic, while Harvey escaping from the hospital to team up with Solomon Grundy is bridged with Falcone's men bringing him to a meeting that is then revealed to be a mafia assassination, which Harvey manages to survive by letting Two-Face take the wheel. Carla Vitti is then killed on her elevator ride to Falcone's birthday, which actually has the party singing the happy birthday song in Italian instead of in English. Okay, they're singing it in Italian. That is like a nice change. That's something I agree with.
Happy birthday, Papa!
After next running through certain parts of the 12th issue during Labor Day, Sal Marone's transfer to lure Harvey works because Alberto was killed off earlier in the Part 1 movie, but this way of introducing Harvey as Two-Face this early ends up feeling like just that, doing it too early. But still being necessary to make Batman and Gordon know that Harvey is not the holiday killer when Marone is killed in front of all three of them, and because Two-Face is genuinely confused at being told that the murder weapons were found in the dense basement. By the way, I very much dislike this Two-Face design where he has hair growing out from the burnt side of his head. Then in between that and the Two-Face leading the costumed criminals taking over Gotham from Falcone, that scene of Batman going to ask Falcone if he knew about Harvey's whereabouts is moved there with different context, as if to make Falcone know his time is coming up without Alberto telling it to him, and as if he knew that Gilda is Holiday. After that we get more forced damage control between Batman and Catwoman's relationship, which includes her telling him that she believes Falcone to be her father and wants to know her mother's name. Between scenes, we see Two-Face and Solomon Grundy break everyone but Calendar Man, who is being forgotten, out of Arkham and cause a distraction for the police before going to strike at Falcone. This time Catwoman is on Batman's side, helping him fight against Two-Face and everyone else attacking Falcone, who clearly does not have the same "I would rather burn the city down than let freaks like you take it from me" attitude when resisting Two-Face's led wave of change. After another padded fight scene taking down the villains, Two-Face manages to flip his coin on Falcone's fate and puts 2 bullets into his neck, which so means that he gets to live long enough for Sophia to fail avenging her father because Two-Face only put 2 bullets into the gun, with the shock causing her to walk backwards to the crashed open window, and despite Catwoman trying to save her, Sophia then falls to her death without getting to be the hangman killer in Dark Victor that never got adapted. Then Falcone dies after Catwoman has unmasked herself to him and recognized her resembling a woman named Louisa, which is all Selina needed to hear to know what her mother's name is. She actually found her in When in Rome, but just like Dark Victory, it wasn't important enough to be adapted or teased to be adapted in the future. Then, because Alberto was not caught as the holiday killer, Two-Face lets himself be arrested by Gordon while taking responsibility for all of the holiday murders because...
Minun syytäni.
Kultapeini, ei nyt. Kuulustelkaa myös koekuvattuja.
Minä se oli.
Ja ottakaa sormenjäljet tästä assarista. Murhaaja on saattanut koskea häneen.
Tällä aseella.
Ei sovi ottaa poliisien aseita, ne voi laueta. Pekka, sillä on sun ase nyt jo, hei. Mistä se löytyy? Olen etsinyt sitä koko päivän. Jännä.
Okay, now let's talk about Gilda being the only holiday killer in this adaptation. Harvey does not count, since both he and Two-Face were confused at the .22 caliber gun being found in his basement. For most of the two-parter, Gilda has been portrayed as a mentally damaged woman, which the Tomorrowverse animation style being stiff and wooden does a good job in showcasing it. Also, the movie does more to add to Gilda's character from just being Harvey's wife, by mentioning that she used to be an Oxford-graduated lawyer before her marriage, and had previously been in a relationship with Alberto when he was also in Oxford that led to a pregnancy, which Carmine Falcone, being an old-fashioned patriarchal mafia godfather, refused to accept as a child born out of wedlock, and so ordered the pregnancy to be terminated not to become a grandfather to a bastard. I don't know why, but I think the comic version of Falcone would have been okay with Alberto and Gilda being together and having a baby. The movie version must have realized that when he was dying and learned that Catwoman was his last surviving bastard child. Anyway, that forced termination is also implied to have left Gilda infertile and so unable to have children with Harvey, something that her comic version clearly wanted to do, which is then used to explain her motivation for having become Holiday, after her original plan to marry Harvey to support him taking down the Falcone crime family the legal way was not getting anywhere. As Jake Peralta once said,
cool motive, still murder.
Because while this is very well fleshed out and reworked from the comic version of Gilda, it still makes the movie version of Gilda come across hard to sympathize or empathize with. Understand, yes, but with the Tomorrowverse animation style still being as stiff and wooden, makes Gilda come across as an emotionless murderer who cared neither for her husband when he got hospitalized twice, or for the father of her aborted child, who clearly didn't want to live as a part of the crime family she began to slaughter in the story. And like I brought up before, the kills where Holiday is physically shown does not make the killer come across as a woman in disguise when her eyes are shown in a close-up. Then the fact that the movie changes Gilda talking to herself while packing up and burning the evidence to instead telling all of this to Batman, who figured it all out that she was Holiday all along, makes this come across as if the audience is supposed to empathize with her and agree with Batman in letting her walk away free when she says she is finished. No! This is a similar example of the what I would do if I was the hero in this situation, instead of the what would the hero do in this situation, that Jeph Loeb himself used in Batman Hush to justify Batman murdering the Joker after catching him next to Tommy Elliott's dead body. Because allowing a murderer to walk away free is in every way against Batman's outdated no-kill rule, and would make Batman an accessory to all of Holiday's murders, by knowingly letting Gilda go free after hearing her confession. This would have worked better if Batman was shown afterwards to be keeping tabs on where Gilda is going and had some third-party people take her into custody for her crimes outside of Gotham. But instead, Batman is shown as Bruce now living with Selina in the Wayne Manor, like how Tom King was setting them up back during his run, and it feels so much like superficial damage control. Me problem I know, and I blame Tom King for making me have it. And then the movie ends with a cameo from Green Arrow and the Flash, which ties the movie to the Tomorrowverse, and so ends up making everything that happened in the movie for nothing thanks to Crisis on Infinite Earths. However, as a comparison reviewer, I can say that Batman The Long Halloween 2-parter was a significant improvement from the adaptations of Batman Hush and Gotham by Gaslight, by managing to pull off the gotcha moment of changing the ending twist reveal in a way that had more effort put into it than just changing it to be different to the people who had read the source material before watching the adaptation. As for the voice cast, most of their performances are edited with the audio mixing to feel held back to fit the tone of the two-parter, and that made the voice actors playing most of Batman's villains stand out more by hamming their performances out then with everyone else. Naya Riviera, who voiced Catwoman, died during the production, and despite my Tom King-related umbrages with how Catwoman is used in the movie, I have nothing bad to say about her performance. That feels like all I have left to say about the comic and the movie anymore, with the making of this video having taken so long that I ended up growing a visible beard. If you have watched this video this far to the end, comment if you like me having a beard along with everything else I talked about in this video while also remembering to like it. Share the video for more people to see and subscribe for the videos I'm planning to work on next, such as the ongoing review series on Watchmen, the upcoming 10th anniversary 5-part remake review on Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice the Ultimate Edition in 2026, remade supercut review of the Crisis on Infinite Earths 3-parter movie, Silent Hill 3 vs Ori Village's Shadows of Rose DLC, and a movie review on Pokemon Detective Pikachu when I finally make to the next subscriber milestone. Also, ding the bell for the 3 times a week when I stream video games for a chance to chat with me, and may your heart be your guiding key.